Okay.
He gets upset.
There it is. Hey guys, no audio. No audio still. I don't know if I'm on yet.
Folks, bear with us a second.
Gotcha. I got it. Can you hear me?
You good? Yeah, we got you.
All right, I'm in.
All right. Wow,
There it is.
I had this really long professional introduction for you, and I'm hearing some feedback in my headphones here.
Sorry about the tech difficulties here.
No worries, man.
It's
This
me.
is great. Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely.
I'm hearing some serious feedback in my headphones.
I'm also hearing your feedback.
Oh, well, see, you get to hear me talk twice.
Don't go into
did.
the light.
From the light.
That might be copywritten.
So TJ, tell us about Skinwalker Ranch.
What do you want to know?
Everything.
Yes. Well, I don't know what you have said so far in terms of like intro and people listening, but yes, I'm one of the executive producers of the show. It was a brainchild of mine about 3 years ago. After talking to a bunch of people in the paranormal space, I was super frustrated with the types of shows that were out there that were, a guy in the dark with green lighting running around wanting to fight ghosts. That's not my thing. And I believe that, especially in entertainment, there is a movement for science. I think like there's a science-based shows are starting to make a comeback, I think anyway, and that's what I wanted to push. And so the idea of Skinwalker was I wanted to find one location where there was consistent paranormal activity that could be studied, and basically an Oak Island for paranormal. That's exactly how I pitched it to history, as an Oak Island for paranormal. And they loved it, but then it took, they're like, yeah, that's great, and what's the show? I was like, oh, well, we haven't gotten that far yet. I think the closest thing is Skinwalker Ranch, and they're kind of like, yeah, right, whatever, you can't get Skinwalker Ranch. So like, okay, I threw down, it was like the gauntlet was thrown down, and it was challenge accepted. And the next 2 years, it took me a while to just kind of, get into developing relationships with these guys. And first tracking them down was almost like, being an investigative reporter, which I'm not. I, once you have so I should step back a second. When you're doing a television show or coming up with ideas for shows, there's the idea, which is great, but then you have to find someone that embodies that idea. You can't just say like, oh, I have an idea for a show, and then just kind of throw it out there like, okay, that's awesome. Everyone has ideas. The hardest part is getting them to actually get made. And so this idea of a paranormal Oak Island, it was, they really liked the idea of it, but it was kind of out there. Where are you going to find that? So, upon doing all this research, thinking, hey, Skinwalker Ranch, no one's ever been on it with a camera before, or I'm sorry, people have been on it, but no one for television purposes has gotten on and gotten the footage off. People have filmed on it multiple times, and a lot of times that footage just literally gets erased, like no rhyme or reason. So, after I ended up making relationships with Tom Winterton, now Thomas is a great guy, and all my phone calls with Thomas, he is the ranch manager. Thomas, or I'm sorry, no, he's the manager. Is he manager, superintendent? I think he's manager. I get his position and Jim's position confused at times. After making contact with him, and he was telling me that, listen, I'm pretty much a janitor here. I have no idea, I have no say in anything. We went back and forth for well over 6 months, probably closer to a year, because he was kind of vetting me and just making sure like, oh, I was legit, and that what I was saying we could actually do, which was, hey, we can package this. If we can get onto the ranch, we really think we have a shot at getting a television series. So he vetted me for a while and then passed me to Jim Morse. Jim's the ranch manager. I'm sorry, Jim. And then spoke with Jim for like another 6 or 8 months. I was vetted by their spiritual advisor during that time period. And, I don't think these guys will ever admit it. Brandon, the owner, will ever admit it. But for the next 6 months after that, we had 2 Mercedes Sprinter vans parked in front of our house for like 2 months, convinced that they were monitoring and making sure that I wasn't leaking anything, and like kind of telling people some secrets or that we've gotten in, or who the owner is, or who these people are, because as you guys know, it's super secretive. And with paranormal in general, it's very, everyone has a secret, right? Everyone's got a secret, but they can't tell you. I know something new. They're always like, oh, I know something great. It's, government, blah, 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 but I can't tell you. Like, all right, fine. So with knowing that, you just keep your mouth shut. And I ended up, once we got in and kind of got a good relationship with them, I brought in my producing partner, Joel Patterson. And Joel created Counting Cars on history. And Joel and I actually went to college together at Hartwick in Oneonta. And so, we've kept touch all these years. We both, been working in the industry since late 90s, early 2000s. And he's had, some really good success. And so I knew that he could really package this together in a much better way than I could on my own and just walk it right into history. And that's pretty much what happened. Joel came out, went to the ranch, we shot a few times, and then we went back multiple times and kept getting more footage, brought it back, and he put together an awesome sizzle reel. And it went back and forth. History wasn't, they want to do some recasting or something like, and it was like, no, the owner said, nope, there's no recasting. This is my team. This is how it's happening. I'm not here to make a TV show. We're doing scientific research. The ranch is going to be here whether or not a show is. And so they kind of like, oh, all right. They really, to their credit, after producing this and putting this all together, they finally pulled the trigger. They're like, yeah, let's do it and give it a shot. I got to give them credit because other networks wouldn't even take our pitches because they thought I was lying when I told them I could get on the ranch or I'd been on the ranch. They were like, no, that's bullshit. No, you're not. Ooh, sorry. No, you didn't get on the ranch.
You're good.
Okay, cool. We didn't believe you. Like Travel Channel wouldn't even hear the pitch. They were like, no, everyone pitches it. And as a matter of fact, while we were in talks with History, we had heard from Travel Channel and they were saying that someone was also concurrently pitching it to them. Like, no, that's not true. And it turns out some random producer was trying to convince them that he could get on the ranch. And the owner's like, there is nobody else. It's you guys. He even called us at one point quote unquote the chosen ones because we ended up shooting on the ranch and we got off with about 90% of the footage. There was one full interview that didn't come out. It was all garbled and a lot of like spaces that had happened. We don't know why. And then one other one that just a lot of just dead air. It was really weird. Mics would die. Well, you know that stuff. Like all tech always collapses in places like this. But yeah, so that's kind of the succinct of a story as I can kind of put together. But it was nuts. I'm all set, and I have no plans to go back. We're gonna start shooting again next week, actually. So they're lucky that COVID. They've been kind of insulated where they are, and so they put some protocols in place for COVID, as well as some other safety protocols to make sure that in case anything does happen, we have medical people there. Now we have a plan. Last time we had a plan, but this time it's now a little bit more intense, knowing that Travis had gotten hurt. And what's funny is the burns Travis had, all the stuff that Travis witnessed, like in episode 1, we went in the hole. I did all that exact same stuff. And I felt all of it. And I was sick for 9 months after leaving that place the first time. And never go back again. I'm like, all right, guys, awesome. Have fun. Yeah, so, but season 2 we start shooting next week, and it's going to be crazy.
So, you spent the time, you put in the time and effort to go there, to explore the place, and you came back and you were sick for 9 months?
Yes, 9 months. And it's funny, one of my doctors, so I was living in New York City area at the time, and I'd gone to at least 3 doctors, respiratory specialists, because I was having respiratory issues. And one of my doctors, funny enough, she said to me that, listen, I'm not going to rule out something as, again, quote unquote, alien. She said, but whatever is wrong with you, it's not showing up on your blood tests. And so what they were doing was trying to find, and this is something I had learned at that point, that when you get a blood test and they're testing for different sicknesses or whatever, there are regional tests. There's regional, very specific diseases or conditions that can happen based on what part of the country you're in. And so they were trying to find a lab that was going to be able to test me for certain airborne things in southwestern United States. We never had found anything, but they would give me prednisone and everything would calm down and I would be able to breathe. Yeah, it was, we never figured it out, but she was like, I can't say it's not alien, but I can say I don't know what it is. So I guess it could be alien. And by alien, she doesn't mean little green men going in my lungs. She was saying like alien as in something we don't know.
I was thinking finally somebody in the medical world is going to admit about that there's aliens, and then they can give you their own version of COVID.
Yeah, when she said alien, were you like, oh crap?
Yes, I was, because so interesting story about my doctor. So she was from India, and she said that she was telling me stories. Now I don't know, I didn't even know this was a thing, but in India she said that a lot of so she was a big comic book nerd, which I'm like, wait, what? You're a doctor? So she was a huge nerd, self-described comic book nerd, and she said that in India the way that a lot of kids learn about their heritage and their religion is through comic books. And so it was just reading comic books and things presented in comic form is kind of a natural thing for her, she said. So when she had come here, she kept on reading comic books, except that it was, superheroes and not like, your history. And so she said, I loved it. And I just stayed right with it. And she was a full on nerd talking about Batman stuff with me, which I was like, there's no way you know this. She did.
Batman, you're talking my language. Talking my language. So a couple things that I noticed about the show. First of all, going back to what you're talking about casting people into the show. We've seen with paranormal shows that you have, core group of investigators, like the main people. Then the networks seem to cast almost like models or something, good looking guy, a good looking girl, and they stick them in there. They're investigators, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
So, but the people of this show, everyone that I've seen is like very like genuine. You know what I mean? They're like,
real.
They're the real people that were involved in this. There's no one coming in like with a headshot that has a Hollywood agent saying cast me for that show. I want to pretend that I'm a UFO hunter. So I thought that how genuine everyone was brought a lot of I think credibility to the show.
Absolutely.
And the way they're talking, interfacing with each other, you could tell there was like regular conversations were going on with these people. There was no awkwardness where they would say something, the other would look at each other, like how am I supposed to answer that, So I did notice that. The other thing I really noticed is that you're talking about a show that you want to have a lot of technology involved. You got a paranormal location, and you want to bring in a lot of scientific equipment and scientific methodology. And every episode I watched, they would do something, it wouldn't work. And it was not because it wasn't, they couldn't find anything, it's because equipment. I mean, the drone couldn't link up. I remember seeing that. I remember them basically finding like very unusual measurements under the ground over near, I think it was Homestead 2. They were going over. Then they were basically, the laser kind of kicked out on them one time when they're they're up climbing the hill looking for it. And I'm like, man, it's like kind of like, and we as paranormal investigators, we know this. Batteries die, but the really weird thing is they die and they should stay dead. It's kind of like, Night of the Living Dead. They should stay dead. Yep. But like The Walking Dead, as we learn, they come back to life. So we leave the location and all of a sudden the camera now works. And everything that had dead batteries now is alive again.
Yes.
And it's a head scratcher. It's like, what?
It is. And Eric's going to get to the bottom of this. So I talked to Eric last night. Eric is going to get to the bottom of all this. He is the stuff that's going on right now, and I can't spill beans on anything, but you ain't seen nothing yet. All right.
Oh, good. Good.
I can
we
tell
like
you
that.
And Eric is, again, we're not going to go into the realm of science fiction, although Travis was, Travis Taylor, who is the one of the, I guess for lack of a better, like he's kind of one of the main characters. He's almost the host, you would say, because he is the only outsider. And that was done because Prometheus is the other production company that we, are partnered with on this. And Prometheus are the guys that created Oak Island and Paranormal, Ancient Aliens. And so the president of that company's name is Kevin Burns. Kevin, great guy. He's from upstate New York too. Believe it or not, he was from, what's the twin city? Binghamton. He was like from Binghamton. Like, wait, what? How is this possible? And he's got like some of the biggest properties on television, biggest shows on TV. He's been doing it for 40 years. He's been out there. But so Kevin, to his credit, he was like, listen, I love this. What we can really do though is because Travis has experience, he's got 74 PhDs or whatever he has. And he was like, Travis can, he would be kind of the take them on the ride, take people on the journey. And that was great. Because Kevin, he knows what he's doing, and then Travis just fit right in. And the tech part of it, though, Eric and Travis together are dangerous, but Eric is going to get to the bottom of this stuff, and he's deployed some pretty incredible tech right now that I'm hoping we're going to get some pretty fantastic readings back on, which would be just awesome, because this will be peer reviewed and it will be published. Brandon is going to be starting a portal. So Brandon Thugel is the owner of the ranch, who bought it from Bob Bigelow. I'm calling him Bob like I'm on a first name basis with him. I've never met Bigelow.
Hey, Bob, what's up?
Hey, Bob. What's up, man? But yeah, so Brandon is he's creating what they're calling a portal, and not like a vortex portal, but a portal like a web portal. Yep. So that he can continue to, so that he can publish the data and have it peer reviewed, but also there's some scientific journal they're going to be submitting to. I don't even know which yet. I'm just going by what he's kind of put out there and laid out in the plan. And but the portal, it'll have, hopefully we'll get some streaming cameras going online and publishing the data. Like Eric just gets tons of sound and kind of like SETI. Remember the SETI at home program where you can run it on your background on your computer? That's kind of what Eric wants to do, something along those lines. I mean, hopefully that happens. So the tech is a key focus here. It's pretty cool. And some of the evidence that I saw on the episodes, that look like, UFOs and the lights coming up out of the mesa and all that kind of stuff. There's definitely some really weird stuff going on there. And I like how it's tied into the paranormal too as well, because we've always said that right along, that there is some kind of link between the two. Absolutely. And so And
I
we
know
don't know
Pete's
what Brandon has come out. He's come out and he said it like I do a podcast, the Skinwalker Debrief. So every week after the show, I do a podcast bringing on one of the cast of the show, and we just kind of recap everything that goes on. And I had Brandon on at one point, and he was, I was shocked to hear him say it, but he was like, yeah, I believe, this is Brandon speaking. Brandon said that he believes it is everything from, he believes that there's a paranormal element to it. He thinks it's interdimensional, and he thinks it is from off world. Like, wait. And then he mentions time travel. I'm like, dude, come on, you're losing me. You're a billionaire here. You're a very sane man. But he's speculating. He's like, look, I think this is what I feel it could, or it is. Until we can prove it, though, I can't say anything. But this is a guy. I mean, he's this dude is a serious person. He's not just some Joe Schmo. I mean, you even saw in the episode they brought in the DA, the Utah district attorney, attorney general, the AG from Utah, was on the last episode of the show, saying that he's going to lend any support to the ranches if they need it. Like, all right then. So.
Wow, it's a big thing in Utah. The people seem to be a little bit more receptive of it out there. We get a lot of community support for what we do here, but I mean, not to that level where politicians come in and say, "Asian Paranormal, we're here for you." Great, thank you.
What do you guys need?
What do you need? Here's $1 billion. What you got? Well, lasers, satellites. I'll give you a list. Everything we need.
But
if there's any politicians watching.
Right. Well, the mayor of Utica, when I had gone, I was in Utica maybe 4 or 5 years ago pitching a show to Mr. Palmieri. I went to school, the high school in Utica with his children, and so I've known this guy like most of my life. And when I met him, he's receptive to doing anything in Utica. It was kind of like, hey, what can we find? And I did a casting there, and I think I went on radio, a couple of TV spots or whatever, or hits here and there, and trying to find someone upstate to kind of do something around, finding unique talent. But I know that the city was all behind it. So I don't know, man, those guys might open their doors to you guys. If who knows? I can see that thing. Oh, look at Kevin's like.
Don't mention my name.
Don't mention my name.
Kevin's already got a list. He's probably got a PDF of it. He'll send over.
Here.
Here's everything that we need. So, with that being said, season 2 is definitely going to happen then.
Yeah. We're shooting. We start next week, and we're going to do 10 episodes for season 2. So they ordered 10. Typically, a normal season is 13 episodes, but they did 6 to get us started because these days people aren't buying full seasons anymore. And then we did get 10 out of this one, which was very lucky, and that was just because not many shows can go into production right now, or the rest of the year for that matter, because of COVID. Right. And so we're super lucky that we're going to end up with 2 seasons in 1 year on air. So I don't even know if Oak Island's going to be shooting this year for this next season.
Wow.
Because they're locked down still.
Yeah, there's definitely an Oak Island feeling to the show. I like that. The storytelling, the experts, you know what I mean? A lot of paranormal shows, the experts are people who've investigated for a few years, and they made a name for themselves. Here, you're talking like you got scientific minds involved, people who are experts in fields of, radiation and all this kind of thing. They all come in and play a part on it, So you're definitely got some heavy guns involved with this.
What are your guys' theories? Give me some theories. What do you guys think?
Kevin, go ahead. Let's hear what you got to say.
I know you got some kind of. Come on, I'd love to hear it.
Oh,
Don't say Bigfoot.
I don't. Yeah, well, maybe it could be Chupacabra. They're working together on this, and they're really going up there. But yeah, I've always thought that there was a connection between extraterrestrials and the paranormal. There's a possibility that extraterrestrials are just connected to the paranormal, as they can sense that energy, and that's why they come down to that area. Is it might be just a hotspot of an actual vortex or a portal just in that area that comes from the Earth. And that's why you see those hotspots pop up of extraterrestrials or even haunted homes or quote-unquote demonics and stuff like that happening. Especially they have the... Oh, I'm blanking on the name here. We were just talking about it.
Chocolate chip cookies?
No.
Reese's Pieces.
You got cookies?
Anyways, yeah, connected. Pete!
What?
Your turn.
Good Lord. How long do we have? Now I wish I had actual cable. Thanks, Candy. So I haven't seen the show, but I'm sure it's great. I've heard great things about it.
History Channel app. You can watch the episodes through the app.
I tried, but it said I had to put in credit information or something else, and I'll check again tonight. Is it on YouTube? I know.
The YouTube.
That's history, not Pornhub. Pornhub requires a credit card.
That's actually the funny thing. Rich is like, oh, we got someone coming on who's going to talk about the Skinwalker Ranch. I'm like, is that the porn place that's outside of Las Vegas? I was like, and then I remember, no, that's the UFO thing.
Checking your credit card statements. No, it doesn't say Skinwalker. What is the name of this? Oh, I don't know what this is.
He has to intercept his credit card statement before his wife sees it each and every time. That's why he's waiting out by the mailbox about the 15th of every month.
As far as what's going on, I mean, metaphysically, human and alien are on the same wavelength. Throughout the COVID thing that's been going on, I think a lot of people who are not into the paranormal missed a very key thing that happened a few months ago when the CIA released all of these documents. So those of us who pretty much believe in the paranormal, they've pretty much admitted now that they've been in contact with them since the 1950s. The polite kind, the cartoonish kind, and the not so good kinds. I mean, that's something that's out there and needs to be researched. We live in that area near, what is it? Whitehall, right? Whitehall? So when there's a large increase of UFO sightings, there's a huge increase of Bigfoot sightings. There's always the correlation between the two. One happens, the other happens. Mm-hmm. But I actually, if I could I ask you a juicy question?
Please.
I remember, I think it was Stanton Frieden brought that up at one of his lectures. He's like, when you start digging into these topics, people start following you and people start paying very close attention. Do you think you're being watched at this point by the government? Yes. As far as your research, I should say, more so than because they want an answer too, or I mean...
Pretty much, yeah. I think that they've kind of made it pretty clear that there's an NSA sleeve on us now, on me and Joel. Like, we had to be vetted to get into this place because there was government money funded, funneled through that place. And and they're also, there's no they're not playing around. They don't want some kind of crackpot coming in and saying I can do X, Y, and Z, and then just shooting all this stuff and putting it online and releasing it like, hey, look at all this stuff, and not pitching a show or not putting anything together. So they vetted us a couple of different ways, but yes, I'm pretty sure. And, I still think I am. It's hard to say because you don't want to sound so conspiratorial that you think you're like way out there, right? But at the same time, if I told you 5 years ago that there's a billionaire searching for UFOs and aliens on a ranch in Utah, you would have thought I was freaking crazy. But here we are.
Might not have, but...
You're talking to us. We probably would have believed you. Yes.
No, yes. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's all relative, right? I mean,
absolutely.
It's not as crazy as you think. And you just don't want to say definitive yes or no, but I can only go by what they told me, like Brandon and the guys at the ranch. Like, yes, as far as I know, there is. Do I know if they're still listening to everything I do? I gotta imagine they're probably scraping metadata off of every device that I have in my house at all times. Yeah. But I think they're doing that to everybody. Maybe I got like a little asterisk.
We've already looked at it. No. Well, just don't look into anything that flashes. That's
yeah. Forgive me for saying this, but it'd be good for our show if two guys in black suits just came and took you away right now.
Yeah, our ratings would jump.
We would go viral and be famous.
Yeah, but we'd be next.
I'd be missing, right? Exactly. And everyone would listen.
We'd have a couple of those little awards that you have behind your head there, behind us.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah,
big YouTube awards. For
See, they are Emmys. I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my Emmys for my time on a show called George to the Rescue at NBC years ago. So it was. Go ahead.
No, let me ask you a question, Kevin. First of all, do you watch Netflix, TJ?
Yes.
Okay. There's a documentary. Okay, you've probably seen this already. There's a documentary on Netflix about UFOs that Todd, our producer, turned us all onto. Kevin, what's the name of that show?
Unacknowledged.
Unacknowledged?
Yes. Watch it. It will blow your mind. This is right up your alley. Unacknowledged basically goes into, it talks everything from UFOs to politics, and basically the gist of it is that you get to witness pretty much the government admitting that, it's real.
It basically starts off with, we had contact with aliens, and then after that, it was the government doing all the sightings that you basically see nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I believe it all. They've leaked it to us. In 2017, December 2017, New York Times published that piece about the three released pieces of footage from the Navy aviators.
Yep.
I think it's Go Fast, Gimbal, and I forgot the third. So that they were verified with the chain. The chain of custody was intact, so they knew exactly where they had passed through and how they got there. There's probably another, I'm going to say, 10 of those, 9 or 10, that I think we're going to start to see shortly. Within the next year, I would say we're going to start to see them be more and more get leaked from To the Stars Academy through Tom DeLonge. But they're kind of leaked it that they're admitting it, and I think they're trying to just throw it out there on Sundays and in the newspaper to get it buried in the news cycle. But it's every few months you see something else, like they just created a naming convention. Their reporting structure is changing, and here's some more videos, and people are like, yeah, whatever. Oh my God, look at this! We're dying of a virus. Oh, but they all but admitted a month ago that there were aliens in the universe. They were pretty much saying, yeah, we're not alone, when they were saying we don't know what those things in the sky are. And I was just shocked that kind of went over everyone's head. Like, I'm sorry, the government just told us that we're not alone in the universe, and you guys, nobody's paying attention.
Yeah.
So, I think we've all been conditioned to a point to just kind of accept, like, yep, that's real. We're not alone.
They buried in the classifieds, like, ooh, there's a Nordic track for sale, and aliens exist, but then there's a bike down here for sale too.
They've leaked this, to strategically leak this out to us to make sure that we stay on board, so that we don't go off path. So that we basically just focus on what they want to tell us. But I've got a couple interesting theories I'll share with you if you don't mind.
Please, man, I love it. This is great. I love this.
The show Unacknowledged, which a couple points came across to me, and I'm going to transfer this over to your show, but is that I know in the past presidents of the United States have said that they're going to leak UFO stuff. They're going to basically, the government is going to disclose the UFOs, right? But what's interesting, I learned from the Unacknowledged show, is that organizations like the NSA, they don't abide what the president tells them to do. They look at the president of the United States as a temporary employee. It's what he is. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, he is. He's kind of an independent contractor, temporary employee, right, for 4 years, right?
That's true.
And they don't have to tell you anything. So the president's like, we're going to leak it, and then maybe you might see a couple little things, but the NSA controls all that, and they're not going to give it to the president. They don't have to answer to the president. And it's not the president that they're afraid of anyways. It's like, intelligence organizations are much farther above them. Leading off of that, there's a podcast from a gentleman named Christopher Fleming. He had a magazine years ago called Unknown Magazine. And most of it is paranormal. He's also doing angels. He's doing past lives and all this stuff. But he also did a lot of work with UFOs. And he had someone on an episode that was working for the CIA, retired from the CIA, and talking about UFOs. And he said that UFOs aren't tiny little men from outer space flying in metal objects. They don't come from a planet far, far away like Thanos does with his ships on... we're talking comic books now, right? Okay, so like Thanos coming to take over the Earth, right? They're actually energy, and they actually come across dimensionally. They cross dimensions to come into here. And they're pure energy. And that's why they come across and they're blurry to look at, and they can just vanish or just take off, because they're not that. We like to see them as the Jetsons flying in their ship, and coming down and the little guys come out. But they're not that. They're pure energy. So going into the Skinwalker Ranch thing, sometimes I wonder if that they've put stuff there. That location has been very, very secluded for a long time. Out in the middle of nowhere. So it's just like, where do you find Bigfoot? Out in the middle of nowhere, right? They're like, how come we never found a dead Bigfoot? Well, why would you find a dead Bigfoot? Do you ever find a dead coyote or a dead mountain lion? No, you don't. So out in the middle of nowhere, they have this place. Maybe essentially this is where they were basically, putting, I don't know, energy into the ground, or I don't know, whatever. Or maybe there's some kind of dimensional portal that's going back and forth there. Now, we've done a lot of investigations, and Pete started this thing where he's asking spirits as we talk to them, what dimension are you coming from? And I thought that was very interesting. And we got a couple answers, like the fifth dimension. We actually talked to an entity, we're not going to disclose the location, but an entity that identified itself to us as demonic. And Pete asked what dimension it was in. And what did it tell you?
Fifth dimension.
Fifth dimension. So,
and it's like clear as day. It's not like we're using what we call the spirit box. So it's a radio that's scanning nonstop. Like I said, I haven't seen the show. I don't know if they're using it. But yeah, we've asked that multiple times. And fifth, sixth, and 11th dimensions have come through. So that's telling you there's something coming through from some other plane of existence.
So I find it interesting that, here you got a guy talking about UFOs, that interdimensional. They're coming from different dimensions. We just don't know how. Then we're talking to something as a demonic spirit, claiming to be demonic. It's telling us it's coming from the fifth dimension. So is there some truth to this whole dimensional thing? And is that what is experienced on the Skywalker Ranch? Is there some kind of like a portal or some kind of like station where this is where they come into? You know what I mean? Because it seems to be that's where a lot of the UFO activity happens. And there's all kinds of weird energy. And just like on a paranormal investigation, we get all kinds of weird energy, EMF, everything goes off the hook sometimes. But you don't physically see anything. And you can get sick. I've been nauseous many, many times. So I wonder if essentially that's what it is. It's just like some kind of dimensional portal or just some area that's just tuned to it. Because I don't know.
You're right. I think you're on. Like, that's one of the leading theories. I mean, that's what Eric, who's the principal investigator there, this is his baby. He lives in this thing. He's out there constantly, and he thinks, there's yes, it could be. He won't ever go on the record of saying anything specific because he doesn't want to pigeonhole himself. He doesn't want to say, well, have somebody come back and say, well, you said it's interdimensional, or you said it's time travelers. So he won't ever commit to saying anything. But the stuff that you're talking about, if you think of it, so he had described to me years ago, way back in the beginning, that so in the United States, most of the not most, all of the mountain ranges, from Adirondacks, Rockies, they all go north to south because of the way plate tectonics work. And they run into each other and they just kind of go upward. The land just kind of protrudes into the sky and creates these mountain ranges. So what Eric told me was that prior to the mountain ranges that they have there, like near Utah in that area, he believed that there was plates previously that had hit north to south and created mountain ranges that went east to west. And then on top of it, you got the new mountains forming that run north to south from plates hitting from east to west. So that means that there's a mountain range below where they are, just from the churning of the rock and stuff. So he thinks that because of all of that compressed rock, that there could be some kind of geological anomaly that is causing, like we're saying, we're calling it a portal or a vortex because there's no definition of what those things really are.
Right.
You get a weird feeling. Well, obviously your biosensor, your body is picking up something that is, it's reacting to, whether it's making you dizzy or nauseous or whatever, you're reacting. So that means that you're feeling something. We just don't know exactly what it is. But like you said, EMF, they pick up a lot of that. They're picking up radiation. They pick up all kinds of sounds. And it could very well be a geographic anomaly. And you're right, like what Peter was saying, it could be that is a quote unquote hot spot because of the geology around it. Maybe it's not magical. Maybe it's just like, holy crap, there's a gravity well so strong there that, hey, it draws things into it, or you don't know. But I think that you're onto something. I don't think it's of what we're thinking of our plane of existence. It's I'm not saying it's going to be crazy multidimensional. I'm using dimensional because I don't have a better term to describe things we can't see yet, because maybe it's just our high-tech gear hasn't picked it up yet. And we're calling it interdimensional. Like science keeps evolving. It's magic until we prove it with science.
Right,
So,
right.
Just as a quick question along that line, Has it ever been brought up? Does that ranch fall on what they call a ley line? Have you ever heard of the ley lines, the energy grids that are on the just locally? Actually, Lee Center has a ley line that runs through it, so there is one locally, which I always thought, well, that fits in well with Griffiths and that whole connection. But so I'm wondering if there's some kind of ley activity over the ranch there that might account for a lot of that weird.
Yeah, they brought it up. And it does.
Energy,
it definitely intersects with ley line. It's been talked about a few times. You know, again, what exactly are those? Are they measurable? And what is it that you have to measure to determine where exactly they are? So again, I think as the tech evolves, because Eric builds his own tech. I mean, he literally will code something, bring a Raspberry Pi, code it, throw it into the ground, write some code, call it Satan. Literally named his code Satan, his program Satan. You know, put a Satan box in the ground and then just start studying stuff and say, I need to pick up gravity fluctuations. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I'll just build it. Okay. Whatever, man. So he's got a limited budget.
There's some people like that, man. There's some.
And this is what? This would be generational, right? Because the natives of the land there have been seeing that stuff for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Correct. Is that what the shape-shifting stories relate to? So this is a few hundred?
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
so
it coincides with the Native American, the Navajo shapeshifter, the Skinwalker, which is like a shape-shifting shaman who eats a sibling. If they eat a sibling, then they acquire the shape-shifting power. That's the Navajo legend, and yeah, that's where they had said it was coming from. So.
And you guys, just as a quick offshoot, you're talking about like disclosure and first contact. Have you ever heard of Valiant Thor? That might be someone to ask for there, and I'm looking forward to that on season 2.
Listen, if
he shows up, we want to do lunch.
Really? Listen, I want to do lunch. I've been fascinated by Valiant Thor. That whole, so in my job, what I do is I look for stuff, right? I just look for cool stuff, ideas for shows, and I like my, I worked on construction shows. Now I'm like, hey, I'll do paranormal stuff, whatever. And I've gone down that rabbit hole with Valiant Thor way too many times, and it always comes to a dead end. Right now, he's supposed to be living in his ship parked around somewhere in Arizona Bay, and they say that the legend is you can walk into it, and it's camouflaged, but it's a physical thing. So if you're walking on the beach one day, you could just dunk and walk into this thing. I don't know if anyone's done it, but that's what they're saying.
Every time we have the spirit box running, I ask for him.
Really?
It's like someone wants to talk to you. Please, please. Humanity needs you. I'm sorry that they probed you in the 1950s. We're sorry.
Yeah,
we're not all that bad.
What's so funny is Valiant Thor. The whole thing is, I think it's Venus. He's from Venus, right? And so we landed on Venus first, and we got this is always boggles my mind. So we have images of Venus from, is it Magellan that landed on Venus for 70 seconds? It was able to broadcast images back for, but so that means, and then it was melted, right? I guess my question had always been, well, if the acid rain melted this freaking thing after 70 seconds on the ground, how did the parachute deploy to land it on the ground and not disintegrate? And then how, when it hit the ground, did it maintain its structural integrity to fire back images? But we've never gone back since. Since then,
yeah,
there's nothing. Now we're obsessed with Mars because maybe Valiant Thor was like, listen, you don't need to go here. Here's the Google Maps of it.
Yeah. You got to call my cousin Valiant Bob. He's over on Mars. Right? He'll hook you guys up.
They have a nice suite in the hollow moon. So there's. Pete mentioned a thing about spirit boxes. Has anyone there, or maybe this is something for the season 2 coming up, has anyone done any spirit communication, like using a portal or spirit boxes, the typical kind of run-of-the-mill ones that paranormal investigators used?
I don't know if it's the run-of-the-mill ones that everyone else uses, because I'm sure Eric built it on his own. They have brought in shamans, they have brought in spiritual mediums, but they've never. I don't want to make blanket statements. So there has been attempts using other equipment that you haven't seen yet. And I think that, so I love that you're asking this, because this is what we've been wanting, from the audience, from people that watch the show, like suggestions or what other tools, what other experiments can you run? Because you know that somebody knows something that we're just overlooking. Maybe it's a geologist who's like, oh, the reason that mountain glows is because it's the certain type of rock that blah, 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 and it's from this part of the world that it shouldn't belong here. Okay, great. But somebody knows some things, and it's just a matter of finding the people that can answer them. So I think that once the right tool is deployed to do this, the ghost boxes, once it's deployed, I think we'll see some really cool stuff. But I gotta say this. History doesn't like what they call woo-woo magic. So you're not going to see too much of the woo-woo, quote unquote, happening because we want to go more science and less unexplainable woo-woo stuff. If we can't measure the data or at least understand that there is something to capture, then I don't see it, going down that rabbit hole. And I don't see rabbit hole like it could be unfruitful. I just mean rabbit hole because that's a long journey into that, man. If you're talking about multiple dimensions in this that you've communicated with, dang.
Okay. I guess no Ouija boards then. I thought for sure they would set up some Ouija boards at the homestead.
We are open to it if you want. I mean,
give it a shot. Or maybe even an ovulus. An ovulus is a high-tech piece of equipment that the theory is that the spirit can communicate with the device electronically or digitally. Now here you're talking to UFOs. Hopefully it's a higher intelligence that would be able to communicate something with that versus a spirit from 1812 who doesn't even know what a flashlight is.
Yeah, theoretically, they should be able to communicate through spirit boxes or ovuluses. So.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys think they could be one and the same?
What are your thoughts on that?
Something we don't know that and we're just defining it as certain things, but it's all one. It's all actually the same thing. It's just presenting itself in different ways.
Well, I think people searching for UFOs or aliens have a certain methodology that they pursue. This is what they've seen, and this is the science behind it. And then paranormal investigators have a certain methodology, that we pursue based on what books we read, our experience, or whatever TV shows we saw. What if someone started to cross-pollinate and started to use some of these different techniques? You'd be quite surprised what you may end up finding. I mean, there's some stuff in the paranormal world, equipment-wise, that it's worth trying. It's not terribly expensive, but if it yielded some results, it's pseudoscience at the best, but it would make for interesting television. And as far as like the woohoo whatever, I mean, if you can capture something and show the data, you capture something. You know what I mean? So it's not like I think something touched me. Wait a minute, I think something touched me. What? I smelled something. That's the problem with the paranormal a lot of times is you see something, the paranormal activity happen, but you've got to take it for granted or take it for faith that what you're seeing is what's really happening to that paranormal investigator on television or that psychic or whatever. Now, these shows like Skinwalker Ranch is like, things are happening. They're showing you stuff. The equipment's registering stuff, I mean, when they're looking at all the lights coming off of that mountain there, it was just like, it's coming out. It's not like I thought I saw a light, they were showing it. So that's kind of what I like. I'm just thinking that if there's a way to cross-pollinate some of the paranormal stuff in there, it could yield some interesting results.
Yeah. I really think it'd be really cool to see some of the tech that you guys have coming out of Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, what could that be used in the field that we do? I mean, that would be amazing to see some of that stuff. I'm not saying it'll ever happen, but
No, I really think it will. I think it's going to get there. I think that it's kind of as they test it out here and you get good results with it and can publish data. Then I think Eric wants to be completely transparent. Like if anything he's building works really well to capture stuff, it's open source. He's going to publish it. Here, go build it yourself, please, and then add on to it. Help me, help you, help me. That's kind of how he thinks. Like he wants to open this up as a learning thing for everybody. And they don't want any BS. There's nothing is faked on this show. Like you mentioned about the paranormal, the ghost hunting shows. I always tell people, like, you got to understand when you're looking at the actual ghost hunter's face on camera and they're like, oh my God. And you see their jaw drop and their eyes are really wide. And as they look down a dark hallway, there is a camera guy kneeling down, walking backwards in front of them. So if their eyes are wide and they're going, what is that? this guy's like, what's behind me? What is behind me?
Yeah.
You know, like people forget these things.
That's what we need is a paranormal show that follows the cameraman doing this.
Yeah. Let the cameramen be the bait, you know?
Yeah. Listen, when they go meta like that, it's been pitched. You know, we've tried it. And they break that fourth wall a lot. On YouTube videos, you see a lot of people showing the camera people their reactions. So it's I mean, this is great. I think that, you know, as more people watch Skinwalker, and if I can find another piece of land like that or other things that are out there, and I put that out to all the people that, you know, can hear this, like, hey, if you have these areas or these cool legends or lores of whether it's ranches, mountains, stuff I don't know, please, you know, feel free. I'm available on Twitter, like just my name, TJ Allard at Twitter. I respond, you know, most everything. And
get us a good Bigfoot show where we can actually find Bigfoot.
So can I tell you something about Bigfoot? And Peter mentioned this earlier. You mentioned, so it's funny you're bringing up Bigfoot because so I've gone down that, you know, I've looked for a very, very long time into the Bigfoot world. And, you know, it's super interesting that it's one of those, you know, it's like a ghost hunting show. Well, you never really catch anything in hunting Bigfoot. You're never really catching a Bigfoot or even seeing one for that matter. But another documentary on Netflix that was brought to my attention, and I have yet to see it. I think it's called Missing 411, and it's super scary because it is about missing children or missing people across the country, and it typically happens in these heavily wooded, abandoned areas. Now, this guy that I found, he was publishing YouTube videos at the beginning of this year. He's publishing YouTube videos, and he had just moved his family, his wife and 2 kids, out of southeastern Oklahoma to move with his in-laws in Texas while he was fortifying his house because he claims they were being hunted by Bigfoot and stalked at his house. So Bigfoot, his kids were telling him this. His kids were saying, every time they got off the bus, they were saying, Dad, the white-faced monkey man is following me down the half-mile-long driveway. So he put bicycles in the driveway so they could ride them and get back faster. And he was kind of like overactive imaginations, okay, whatever. But then the kids would start saying stuff like, Dad, the white-faced monkey man is looking over the swing set. And he's got all of these pictures and stuff that I don't know what they are, but they kind of look like a white-faced monkey man. It looks like a Bigfoot. And every time they take the photo, it's like the flash from their face makes it look white. That's why they're saying white face when the light hits it. And so it looks like a quote-unquote monkey because it's hairy and big. And the kids don't know any better. So he moved his family. The plural, I learned this, the plural of Bigfoot is not big feet, it's Bigfoots with an S. I didn't know that. And so these guys are telling me this, and I'm like, all right. And so he's gone up front. He reported it to the police. He has shot at it with his AR-15 off his front porch. He's like, I'm going to kill it. He goes, if something is stalking my kids, I don't care if it's a Bigfoot, a human, an ant, a bear. I'm going to protect my family and shoot this thing. And so when the kids came back, like, so they were gone. They left right after Christmas. They came back in like March. He said the sightings all started again. And, you know, he's got, again, tons of evidence and footage, and he put a paper trail through the police. But the sheriff in his town told him that this happens only certain years when areas around them are heavily hunted. And so he's not a Bigfoot believer. This guy's like, I don't care. I don't give a crap. I just protected my family. So he saw a documentary on Netflix called this Missing 911, and he said that, holy crap. He looked at the hot spots for it, where these people were being abducted. And then he found, because he was researching Bigfoot to see if he was in a hotspot area, he found a U.S. map that had all these Bigfoot hotspots. He laid them over one another, and it is uncanny how there's a correlation between them. So people going missing in these areas where there's all these Bigfoot sightings. And so putting this together, like pitching that show, the networks have told me like it's too much of a true crime show because that's scary. Like there's kids missing, same places Bigfoot sightings are happening. Now, in my head, I look at that and I'm like, okay, well, yes, there's big wooded areas and people go missing in wooded areas all the time. That's unfortunate. And of course, Bigfoots are sighted in wooded areas all the time. But to know that there's kind of an overlap, and the cops in his town said there's an overlap. And then to take it like a step further, he's like, okay, well, what if it's not really a Bigfoot, but it's a crazy effing cult of people dressed up as Bigfoot abducting kids? And my head just exploded. I'm like, wait, this is your theory? And he's like, well, that sounds more realistic than an alien coming down from a spacecraft, a hairy alien coming from a spacecraft that they think Bigfoot's an alien now. And he's like, oh, it's more realistic than a hairy alien. I'm like, I suppose it is. You're right. People are crazy. I can see that happening. But none of the networks want to touch it because it's too much of a true crime. But man, there's a crazy correlation. This Bigfoot stuff, I don't know. I go back and forth with Bigfoot all the time.
What I got out of everything you just said there was the cop glossed over and was like, yeah, it happens whenever they get hunted.
Thank you.
Like, wait, okay, so the police know about this and they're not going to do anything?
Yes, that's exactly. It reminds me like the movie Predator, the line in Predator, this only happens when it grows hot, and this year it grows hot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it only happens when the area is hunted.
I think of the Progressive commercial. What'd you call me? It's okay, Bigfoot. What'd you call me? My name's Ted or Ned or something like that. He's like, people don't care anymore. He's like standing on the side of the thing. They're just boating by him. He's like, people just don't want to take pictures of me anymore and stuff. So.
Oh, he's doing the walk. He keeps pretending to do that turn.
Yes,
the film.
Take a picture of me. Yeah. Bigfoot's always interested me. I've read some books about it and then watched a lot of documentaries about it. And it's fascinating to me. And, I really thought that essentially, I truly believe there's something out there. And if you really look up some research, and there's a couple books that you can get that talk about the science of Bigfoot, studied by different, PhDs and stuff from different universities, people who study bipedal motion and people who study, apes and gorillas. There's a lot of stuff. And then they start to put it all together. And if you read their stuff, you're like, yeah, this is pretty believable. Basically, the depth of the footprint correlates to the weight and the gait of something that would be that tall. They just look at all the physical little things to see if it's faked or if it's could actually exist, and you'd be quite surprised. The science has gone into Bigfoot. Now, they've even published stuff. They did a DNA test on a sample they had found of hair, and it came back half. I'm gonna say it was like there, but it was also they couldn't determine the maternal aspect of it. They were like it was an unknown. So they were just saying they found an unknown DNA in the research. Now, again, it's so hard to find the truth online. You don't know what's true and what's not, and published and right.
So it's like, do you believe that? I don't know. I just created a TV show about a billionaire hunting for aliens in the desert, so I believe in a lot of different things.
If I was a billionaire, that'd kind of be high on my list. Bigfoot would be number 2, but being in the desert, there doesn't seem to be a lot of Bigfoot sightings. He kind of likes that Pacific Northwest with all the trees and the deer and everything he can eat. So,
there are more billionaires doing this. There are more out there. There really, truly are. They're searching. I believe that. Billionaires with a lot of money, that's kind of billionaires are going to be the ones that are going to push all this stuff forward because they were kids too in the 80s and they got interested in this and they just have money now to buy cool toys and find stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what is the goal for the administration at Skinwalker Ranch? The gentleman owns it. What is the ultimate goal? Where do they want to go with this? Put the television show aside. What is their goal? Obviously, they're interested in this with or without the show. But are they looking for the ultimate answer, the ultimate proof? Or are they just saying, hey, we got some weird stuff going on here. We just want to know what it is?
Both, actually. There's both of those things. They want to know what it is, but Brandon wants to get an answer. He wants to be able to say, he thinks this is an historic journey. He really thinks that they're going to be the ones that are going to figure out what is interacting with us in this these other dimensional, I keep saying quotes, other dimensional things. But he really wants to be, have all of us have an epiphany and help everyone kind of get rid of the mystery of it and say, okay, now we know what this is. And he wants to be the people that bring that, to light. That's what he wants. Seriously, he wants to bring it out. And obviously there's probably more to his motivation than I'm even aware of. But as far as I know, he wants to get to the bottom of things.
So when you were there, when you spent your time there, did you see anything? Did you see any proof? Did you see flying saucers? Did you see, aliens? I mean, kind
Yes.
of what things did you see with scientific equipment, or did you just kind of experience feelings and stuff like that, or did you see it visually?
All of the above, to
Okay.
a point where it was like I have a DJI. We had a DJI Pro drone out there. I watched our drone just fall out of the freaking sky. I watched that thing freak out. I would smell on the ridge. I would always catch this smell of sulfur. There would be a strange smell, like it would be at night, and it was multiple nights. I was there multiple times for periods of time, and not just in like 1 month. It would be like you go a couple months later, you go again when you're trying to get this thing off the ground. And it was a consistent thing, and there's no sulfur in the air. There's no sulfur, nothing that would produce sulfur there. So anytime anyone would see something manifest or something appear, or they'd see a light they would say there was followed by a sulfur smell. So Eric was kind of trying to put together some kind of relationship between a sound being created or someone seeing something and then it disappearing, and then that smell being the residual, like what's left over from it evaporating or from whatever is happening. I saw these things that I at one point described as floating potato sacks, but a better description was the wraiths from Lord of the Rings. The nine, the ones that were chasing Frodo. I saw these things, man, and I've worked in television, for years. I got a camera. I'm getting out. We're about to get onto the helicopter, and I saw something caught my eye above the tree line, and I look up over the tree line. I'm like, huh. And then I see like 2 or 3 of these things, and they're almost like spinning like a vortex. And again, they were like potato sacks just flying in the wind. But the cooler description is they would look like wraiths, on horses. And so they're swirling around the tree line. And I was like, oh shoot. And so I got my camera and I start running down the tree line. And I knew as soon as I would clear the tree line and get around it, I would get a much better, wider view, because there was no trees around the side of that. And man, I'm seeing these things. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And the helicopter's on. Boom, I hit the corner and they're all just gone. And luckily, Eric had a camera. One of the cameras picked it up. So it was like, okay, so we had the physical, we had me seeing it, and then we also had that. A lot of stuff with the compasses would always go bananas. I had seen more times just like light in the sky, like you would see something and you're like, did I just see a UFO? Did I just see a disc? What, and it's like, nah. And then you'd be like, here, look at the camera. Like, here, check this image out. Like, I just saw. Yeah, that's what you just saw. Like, you've got to be kidding me. It just kept on happening. And the sounds, and I can't say this, my wife will hear me, but I think we had a hitchhiker for a little while that followed me home. And I would hear sounds. And Travis, the host of, on the show now, he has described a lot of the same things I have, where I couldn't make out if it was a sound in my head playing this old-timey music, or if it was, something in my house, like picking up a signal and pumping it through a static of my speakers or something. My wife woke up one night and it's like 3:30 and I got my ear on the stairwell, like listening. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't you hear that? What the hell is that noise? And she could never hear it. But then as soon as I started feeling better and everything, that all went away too. It was funny. All of my symptoms, everything just cleared up. Now, whether I was exposed to a lot of radiation and it was making my ears ring and I was perceiving it as music, I'm willing to believe any of that stuff to keep it logical, but I know what I was hearing. I know what I saw too. So I'm not saying there's aliens, but
you're not saying there's aliens, but
did you have any missing time?
But
yes, I think we all did a few times while we were there, and I don't know. There was no missing footage, but there was time missing. I don't know if it's because time codes jump, things change, magnetism affects these things. I don't think I was taken, but I don't know. I don't have any.
You don't have to do it on the air, but apparently they put three things behind your ear that you could feel, 3 lumps. So that's. I saw that on an episode of something, so it must be true. But
it wasn't the Jetsons either.
Nice. Stan Freeman found a lot of, he was pulling stuff out of people for, Dr. Lear. He had recently died, right? The podiatrist who people would go to, and he was removing pieces. And I mean, he's removing something that was producing radio waves. So, I don't know. A lot of stuff we don't know.
There's a lot of different components to this Skinwalker Ranch place. I mean, the Native American, what's going on with them and their legends, all the energy and the weird electronic interference, all the sightings and stuff. It's almost like they have like a base or something there. They have a facility or something. It's like a big hornet's nest, a mud hornet's nest in the ground, and they come out every once in a while. But don't step on it, man, because they'll sting you. But I've done that a few times. But yeah, it's almost that's what it sounds like. Yeah, I've stepped on them before. They actually just mud hornets, and they go in the ground, and you step on them, and they get pissed. And they will sting you until they all die. So that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother television show.
I probably shouldn't say this.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. One other thing maybe to look for, are you in the location of a DUMB, a deep underground military base?
Oh, you mean like
that might be some...
Yeah, no, so it's funny you're saying this. This is what I was just about to tell you. So there was a guy named Junior. I can't his last name right now. And he just recently died. He was in his 90s. And he lived in the basin for, his whole life. He grew up there. And he became kind of like, the gatekeeper. Like anytime anyone saw something or heard something, they would call Junior, and Junior would take it. And, he would sketch stuff, or people would sketch stuff for him. He would interview them, record them. And so out at Homestead 2 at one point, I'm interviewing Junior. We had him sitting down in front of the homesteads. And he was talking about this rare mineral that is there on the ranch. And the name is slipping my mind right now, but there's a mineral that it's only there. And I want to say it's adamantium, but it's not. But it's something along those lines. Well, funny, adamantium is what the shell company, the owner, created to buy the ranch. He bought it under Adamantium LLC. But
somebody's a Wolverine fan.
Exactly. So Junior, this 90-some-odd-year-old guy, so I'm talking to him, and he's sitting with the homestead to his back, and he's looking at the mesa, and the mesa's on my back, and he starts pointing at me. He's like, "Well, right behind you, underneath, there's an entrance." He said, "There's a base here," and everyone's kind of like, that's why we drilled in that area, because that's where Junior was talking about something was underground. Maybe it's a DUMB, who knows? But here's this guy who also said that he showed me pictures of this element 115, these rods. So he showed me pictures of these rods that they don't have, that they're claiming they don't have them. He showed me a Polaroid of it, and he said at one point before the current owner got the ranch, Bigelow had he was paying people to. They were like, he hired people to crawl on their hands and knees across all these fields to find any of these rods. And he was claiming it was element 115. I don't know what that is, and so I don't know. I couldn't say yes or no. But he showed me this really cool rod that he said some ship had hovered over this area and dropped all of these things that looked like it was jettisoning empty fuel cartridges, is how he put it. So, I mean, again, talking about these DUMBs, I can't rule it out, but I don't know. I don't want to say yes, but I can't definitively say no either. So it's
unpentium. That was the element 115 unpentium. I couldn't think of what. And they said now a lot of these sightings with UFOs, they're actually coming back to Earth, taking 1950s radio parts back with them. So I'm wondering what's actually in the old radio systems that they don't have in the future or in outer space, that they have to come here and get that kind of antique technology from. But I wonder if it is some kind of element. So now's the chance. Get rid of all those transistors and all that. Right? Vacuum tubes. Heard that.
They're coming back. They say that they're taking 1950s radios or old gear
to repair stuff. So maybe ham radio's a hobby up in outer space. I don't know.
There you go. There's the new history show, Intergalactic Pickers, right there. We got it.
I love
Do you have unobtainium?
You heard it first. Go file that patent and copyright.
Right, trademark.
Go trademark that. Yeah, man, I'm telling you.
I can tell stories forever.
maybe there's a resource here on Earth that they need, something that we have that they need, that they mine, or something that they, and I just thought of that because, you're talking about coming back and getting parts from the 1950 radios. Maybe there's resources that we have that they need. That's where they're mining, possibly. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, Dan Aykroyd thinks it's humans. He's trying to sue the government. I don't know if you read about this. So he's got a new show coming out, but he's also trying to sue the government because he's saying that we have an embargo with these aliens that are abducting people and they're breaking a law. Like he cites a law like law number blah 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 blah. The government is allowing its citizens to be taken, against their will and then put back. And he's like, that's kidnapping. And so he's now literally trying to sue. It's pretty interesting that he's gone that route with it, but who knows? He also claims Men in Black were following him. So.
Well, that's why one of his shows had to stop, wasn't it? Because he was basically told, "Stop. You can't talk about this anymore."
Yeah.
Well, there was a position.
Right
there was a position at NASA who was the most powerful person in the world who could arrest and basically detain anybody under some treaty that every government had signed in the 1950s, sort of fearing like with the COVID, that if you went into space, you might actually kill the planet with some mysterious disease. So if they suspected something or if they thought something was wrong, this person had the ability to literally arrest, shut down, detain, quarantine anybody on the planet. It was only a GS-9 job, which is about a $60,000 a year job. It opened up a few years ago. I applied for it, didn't get it, but so I don't know if they filled it or what.
Pete also applied for the Men in Black, and they turned him down too as well. So
that's an awesome story, though.
His name would be Agent P.
Agent P.
Here, Kevin, look here.
Have you guys gone out on any cool hunts lately?
We have one coming up.
Yep, we got one on Friday. We're gonna be heading out.
Yep. It's,
nice. Where, local?
Yeah, it's out towards like Amsterdam, out that way, okay. New York, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It is a private residence, so we can't really give out too much information. So
it's awesome.
We're one of those groups who kind of follow the nice protocols.
Yeah, yeah. We protect the people that we, those homes that we go into.
If you ever want to know the skinny on Griffiths, let me know. I can tell you some interesting stories.
If you ever want to do a show on Griffiths and UFOs, because there's a lot of talk about, there's the guy right here.
So have you seen this recently in Utica? There's a flap going on over Utica right now. Yep. Every day, my family keeps sending me. I'm like, stop sending me video links to an app that I'm not downloading. But it's like there's all these MUFON reports and over Utica. I mean, ridiculous number of UFOs. Yep. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, just east of Utica and Clayville's a big area, big hot spot.
Okay.
You'd mentioned
Griffiths has always been a hot spot.
You mentioned Dulce. Well, Griffiths was apparently a joint CIA alien base too.
Really?
Allegedly. And somebody had showed me pictures of supposedly level 14, but
and you're
it was actually on Topics.
That's crazy.
But when you start looking, it used to be like online. I don't know, what was it? It was supposed to be
it was
to
an
benefit,
online thing where you could talk smack about people. I mean, if you were like a local celebrity, people go on there and talk about how nasty and ugly you are. And
they shut that down about a year ago, though. The topic's just completely gone now.
It was slander pretty much in its highest degree, except you never identify who you were when you did it. You could be like, I'm Gemini 6, and you come up with whatever name you want.
There's apparently an underground transportation system that runs from Griffiths to the University of Rochester, the other way to Long Island there, Montauk. I mean, and I asked them when I was doing the book on Griffiths, I'm like, I lived here. Who would have dug this hole? I mean, no offense, telegraph, telephone, telling Italian. I mean, somebody would have said. They're like, well, they brought people in from California. When they dug the hole, they went back home. I'm like, that makes sense. Damn it.
And yeah, people all kept it quiet, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to kind of get close to wrapping it up here, TJ.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for your time and everything. And we could talk about this stuff all night, as you probably could imagine. And you seem to have been bitten by the bug, too, man. You seem to be pretty knowledgeable on all this subject now. And I'm sure you spend a lot of time in front of the computer like we do, researching this stuff and, looking at YouTube and everything else. So just give us a quick rundown. What kind of cool things do you think we expect from Season 2?
You're going to see some new tech deployed.
Sweet.
That is this. Shoot, how do I say some of these things without getting myself in trouble?
No, don't.
Yeah, no, you don't want to give anything away. But no, there's some stuff that has been developed that large government agencies have used for other things, and now they're being repurposed and modified for our use by the team at the ranch. You're going to see a lot more medical protocols in place because, there was a lot of criticism about like people getting sick or hurt or whatever. So we now had to develop a way to deal with these, almost like not triage, but that's too strong of a word, but, a way of kind of, okay, this is what's going on and here's how we need to move from this. You're going to see a lot more of Eric. And so he may or may not have long hair. I'll find out tomorrow. They're trying to make him cut his hair, but there's going to be some really cool stuff, and I think you're going to see some stuff that's going to be more publicly available for people to participate, to download, to analyze on their own, potentially build their own stuff based on plans or things that are published. So stay tuned. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing it. So
you guys should reach out to DARPA and see if you could get their time travelers on there to talk to you.
See, man, are you trying to get me off on tangents? Because I could tell you way too much about that stuff.
I think he's still alive. Chris Basaggio, that was one of the travelers. But
welcome to Agent Paranormal.
Yeah, we can talk about this stuff all night. Trust me, our wives will start sending us a text message. Where are you? What are you doing?
Shut up!
Talking UFOs. Leave us alone.
Listen, I'm always looking for shows. I mean, if there's ideas and stuff, like Rich, you've already turned me on to Chris. I mean, some other great people. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Galactic Pickers.
Intergalactic Pictures will be next season.
Yes.
I can only do $50.
It'll have to go after the time slot of Skinwalker Ranch. You know, they shift those around. I don't understand the science behind it, but anyway. So
come on, tribbles again. I just seen them things. Come on.
So TJ, thank you so much, man.
$20.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate you being on here. We'll be in touch with you on some other matters, and have yourself an awesome night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you very much for having me. Take care.
Be safe.
Yes, thanks, you too.
You're out. Out. We're still going, though, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, we're out.
No,
I'm sorry. I apologize to TJ. I'm sorry.
That was very, very interesting.
And if I offended any Italians out there, I apologize to you and every member of your family who has a baseball bat. And
so here's a guy that I've known for years, and at the time I met him, he said, no, paranormal, UFOs, no. Nobody wants that stuff, because this was a time when all that stuff was on the decline. It was all falling off, right? Then there was a huge surge in it, and he jumped aboard the whole Skinwalker Ranch thing just as it was before it got launched up. But he found himself a specialty in that whole thing with the UFOs and the paranormal, and he spent a lot of time out there too as well. And I think that's kind of what brought him in. Essentially, once you experience something, you can buy you into a lot more than like, yeah, let's just do a paranormal show and like, all right, you guys take care of it. I don't know anything about it. Here's a guy who was out there, he got sick, and he was seeing things and everything. So, and you could tell by his enthusiasm, he's bought into this. You know what I mean? He's had experiences.
But see, I appreciate that. Having been around other paranormal shows, the people involved in the filming aspect and everything, it was just a job to him. There's no... You can tell now he's fully invested. Because I remember we met with him, you brought me to the office maybe 3 years ago.
Yep.
We just were talking. Interesting guy. But now I can see there's like, okay, you went down this rabbit hole, which is a good thing because there is so much out there.
Yeah, you get sucked into it. You really do. So just to wrap it up here for tonight on the show, just remember that we've got we have a small investigation that we're doing in the next coming weeks. And then we're looking forward to putting together some events, hopefully for the fall for everyone in the community here.
Are we attempting to go live Saturday?
Probably not.
Or like a Facebook Live at the least or something, or no?
Possibly.
No? Okay.
Well, we'll explore that.
Somebody wants to.
But hopefully by October, we can get back to putting on some paranormal events for the community. Our stuff has been very well received, and we do a great job with that, and we appreciate the community. They're very excited, they get involved in it and stuff, and actually they've provided us with some great evidence in some of the investigations and events that we've done. So with that being said, I think we're good for tonight. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us, and make sure you follow everything on Disruption Network on social media, and also like us on Facebook at Agent Paranormal. We want to let you know what we're up to all the time, and we'd like to hear from you. And also Disruption Network's got a lot of great shows you guys should follow. It's great entertainment, and they're doing wonderful things. So we're going to call it a night. My name is Rich. This is Peter. This is Kevin.
Even though it's 900 degrees out, I'm going home and I'm having a big cup of Utica coffee.
Utica coffee. And Todd, our producer here. So everyone have a fantastic night, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks, I hope.
Scare you later.